So I'm trying to understand a little bit what the process that's happening here. So, because when you actually smell a cracker, there are compounds, chemicals that are, that are going into your nose and landing on receptors, and there's processing that's going on. So it's the way those things are actually physically happening.
True.
But is it the way our brain interprets those signals? Is that what we're changing? Mm-hmm. And that is, it's hard to think that that's possible. Like things taste a certain way, or.
But so if you think about why two people eat the same thing, one throws up and the other one enjoys it. Mm-hmm. It's the same substance.
Right.
It's internal representations. Like one lady, she matter of fact, she was the one who was a psychiatric nurse, and she was diagnosed ADD or ADHD. Of course, when I started working with her, some of her best experiences to heal was that she was physically, emotionally, sexually abused when she got home from school. So while she's at school, guess what she was worried about? Do you think you could learn and worry about that at the same time? No. But also she learned that she didn't want to be controlled. So guess what? When she goes to the dentist, how many shots do they put in her mouth to numb the pain? 20 still feel the pain. Because even though it's a drug, other people, they just look at the needle and they feel nothing. Because again, it is the mind who is the controller. Yeah. And when you understand that, that's why some people have their problems with gluten. There's a hypnosis of the mass culture in the health world food industry. And by the way, I venture to say they sell gluten-free products that are not as cheap as the real deal. Yeah. This is hypnosis. Right. And of course, ADD and ADHD is a massive on the rise. You don't think it has to do anything with the mass hypnosis and the trances that have been taught? Absolutely. So it does. There is real chemicals, but it's interesting. Some of you may have seen the work of Bruce Lipton, and unfortunately, there's a farce with what he's teaching, and it works great with single cells. So Bruce Lipton talks about he's got these two cells, and inside this is the energy field around the cell, or the outside of the cell. And so you put these two cells in an environment, and the environment impacts the cell. And both of these cells will respond the same. The environment does impact the cell. Now let's take a little baby. How many cells are in a little baby? Billions. And there's something that a cell doesn't have that a human baby does have. And you know what that is? Consciousness. And also focus. You hear me? So now we got two babies and they're both in the same environment. Twins. Identical twins. Same environment, same parents, same environment. Now what happens is one twin could be looking this way. This other one's looking this way, and they see something different. Why aren't both of them acting the same? Because there's consciousness and also the ability to focus. Yes, our environment can and does impact us, but it doesn't determine us, because the determining factor is what the cell or you focus on at that moment in time. Therefore, these two cells act differently, perform differently, and grow differently. Can I repeat it all? I don't know what I said. Where am I? Oh, something just took over my body and my mouth started working. I was channeling something. All right, so basically what I'm saying is that you got, with Bruce Lipton's work, it is true with single cells. Single cells, that's true. But unfortunately, we are not single cells. We have what they call the ability to focus. You got two children, identical twins, same environment, same family, same room. One focuses on one thing, one focuses on another. Those two cells do not grow up and act like the same. That's the biggest difference between the environments. Yes, consciousness. Because see, we got people in this room, and you all probably go to the same church, you probably all go to the same gas station, you go to the same grocery store. You all have husbands or wives. But why aren't you acting the same? You see what I'm saying? There is an element that is missing. Even though the environment looks the same, even though you give them the same drug, The responses are different because of consciousness and focus. So, this is the most important part I can tell you. It all determines on the thinker, the focus of the individual.
Just a quick follow-up.
Okay.
So, can I do the same exercise with, say, lima beans, which I
Absolutely.
detest?
Yes.
Make myself actually like them?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I do it all the time. Here, share your story.
So, a week and a half ago at level 3 training, Robert chose me to be in the chair, and one of the things we tapped on was my aversion to Cheetos. And
she said, you will not make me eat these.
I had actually never eaten Cheetos before, but somebody that I had strong feelings towards had really liked Cheetos growing up, and I just decided that I wasn't going to eat them because that person really likes them. And I never imagined that I'd be even able to eat them. The smell of them disgusted me, and even sitting in the chair, I told Robert that he wasn't going to make me eat these. And so...
And I didn't make her.
And yeah, by the time we were done, I was eating it, to my surprise, and it wasn't that bad. And now, there's the emotional charge is gone, and it's not like I'm in love with them now. I think that was the fear, then I'm going to be obsessed with Cheetos and want to eat them all the time. But now it's just like, okay, I can see Cheetos, I can hold the bag. I didn't even want to hold the bag when I was up there at the beginning. It's just, it doesn't have control over me anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by the way, her dislike for Cheetos was linked to a what? A relationship. And that relationship was controlling her ability to enjoy a good bag of Cheetos.
Are perceptions of things or things that happened before or references related to allergies also?
Yeah. Allergy is an interesting creature. I can explain. I work with a lot of people with allergies.
Can I add just because?
Yeah, you can add a little bit more? Okay,
Yeah.
here.
So when you explain, can you explain why a child would have a peanut allergy, a food allergy, and if FasterEFT can help with food allergies that they tell you are really in your system and your makeup?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what I wanted to add to her.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this is an interesting, there's a lot of variables to this, okay? There's a lot of variables. I can tell you stories and individuals who've had experiences. Okay, first of all, the first woman I worked with, I was in Wichita, Kansas in the early days of 2002, because that's when I bought EFT, started EFT, and I started improving it and making my own system, FasterEFT, and now eutaptics. All right, so she came to the seminar. And she goes, does this help with allergies? I said, I don't know. Let's give it a try. What is it? She comes up. She says, I have a severe reaction to milk. She says, it does horrible things to my body. It comes in, horrible things, comes out horribly. I said, okay. So I said, why don't you come on up, have a seat. So she sat up here, and I began to explain to you in front of her. She's behind me. I said, this is how I see it. Just as we love foods, we hate foods. We have responses to foods based on the environment. And let's say, for example, you're sitting around the dinner table. You're sitting around the dinner table and you're eating something, you have milk in your mouth, or you have crackers in your mouth, and mom yells at you and makes you feel bad. And while you're feeling this bad feeling, you're noticing the flavor in your mouth. Now, all of a sudden, there's a link being created unconsciously. You didn't do it consciously. You're just focusing. All right? So now as I'm telling this, I look back, she's crying. I said, what's wrong? She goes, well, I'm allergic to milk, and my dad was a farmer, a dairy farmer. And she says, we're all sitting around the dinner table, and he only had girls, he had no boys, and he was making us drink our milk, and the milk was already sour. All right, so I addressed issues with her father, addressed the responses as it went in, went out of her body, just tap on all the memories, because again, memories are hypnosis. Memories make you respond. Memories make you do weird things to people you're supposed to be loving instead of being mean to, and the father was just doing what he was programmed to do from his experiences. So we tapped on that, and so she left. The seminar ended. It was a 2-day seminar, and she wrote me, and she said, well, my husband is so amazed that I can now eat cheese products and it has no negative side effects. And he's having me tap on his buddies for their golf. And so I said, great. So 3 years later, she comes to Oklahoma doing a seminar. And she raised her hand. She goes, hey, my milk allergies all came back. I said, really? Come on up. How's your dad? She starts crying. He's dying of cancer. Now, what has happened is milk, and all of a sudden, Dad's dying. Now she's having an emotional response. I see this all the time. I'm in Australia. The first time I went to Australia, the first seminar, I did a video. I shared a video yesterday about the cookies and the snow. That was the same time I said, a lot of people like white Christmas, but I'd rather have white Christmas in Australia with the white sandy beaches. And if you're in Australia, invite me, I'll come. And 3 weeks later, I was in Australia, and I was giving this seminar. There was a lady sitting back here, and she said, does this work with allergies? I said, I don't know, let's give it a try. She has a seat. I said, what's your allergy? She said, peanuts. I said, I'm very sorry, you just had a peanut. And right in front of the whole group, she started having a reaction. There was no peanuts. It was the word peanut. And she started to have a physical reaction, and I tapped on that. Now, here's the bizarreness of it all. I started tapping on her reaction. I started tapping on it. All of a sudden, she gave us a memory. She says, I have this aunt I hate. She was so mean. She was in a wheelchair. She would babysit us, and she would slap us. She would punch us. And she was eating peanuts. And she said, and then we tapped on that. She said, I have another memory. We're in the kitchen. She has this rolling pin, and she's going to hit me with it. And at the end of it looks like now, guys, I can't even make this shit up. I mean, this is from her own emotional, unconscious references. And then all of a sudden, her reaction to peanuts can change. I've had people we worked on, and now their allergic reactions to foods have changed because the emotional links are broke. You have to understand, the mind is a powerful machine. Science has proven that the mind can heal itself, and it does it a lot. Almost every research project, it's proven that it works. It's called the placebo. Now, if you don't know what the placebo doesn't mean fake. It means the mind's great ability to heal itself in spite of no drug and no surgery. It's proving that the mind's doing it. Now, I know what it's doing. I know how it does it. We call it the universal pattern of creation. And that's how you got yourself here. That's why you wear the shoes you wear, because your brain is always operating from this system. So they made up stuff, they created stuff, and they produced what they were doing within themselves. So what about a child who's born with allergies? Did they do something wrong? Probably not. It's maybe just something that's just what is. Now, there are drugs. There's a lot of people who take their kids and get them vaccinated, and in the vaccination, there is peanut oil. And it does create reactions. It could kill a child. But the brain can also override that by changing the hypnosis of it. So there's a lot of variables to this. But I worked with a lot of people with allergies, and the allergies disappeared.
I just wanted to give testimony that I had a bad allergy to walnuts my whole life, and life-threatening, carried an EpiPen with me. And Robert tapped on it, and it disappeared in a session. And he kept trying to get me to eat a walnut in session, and I wouldn't, because if you even laid a walnut on my skin, the oil would start breaking me out, and I'd have to go to the hospital, and I was afraid of dying. But unbeknownst to him, a month later, I went to an allergy specialist and had the test run, and they said, you're no longer allergic to walnuts. And I had to run it again. I didn't believe. But truly, I have not had an allergy reaction in over 10 years. I don't carry an EpiPen, but I still carry a Benadryl just in case my mind links back. But cured, yeah.
Very good job. You get it right back here. Yeah, good job.
So after I did chemotherapy, I ended up getting 24 food allergies and sensitivities, and we had the EpiPens, and my son needed it as well, and did tons of tapping, and I can eat all foods now. And I was like, one time, like Kirk and Mira, I was calling Mira and I was like, having a reaction. We just moved to Charlottesville and I was literally having an anaphylactic reaction. And we had to contact a friend of ours who's a doctor, and I was like just drinking, all we could find was children's Benadryl. And I was like, I had Benadryls in the car, in the other car, in the house. I had EpiPens, we had everything. And it was so freeing when we got rid of all the Benadryl and, the EpiPens. I'm like, yay, it's my mind. Oh, who knew, So
what kind of allergies were they?
Okay. Nuts, dairy, gluten, mushrooms, garlic, sugar. Oh my goodness, Robert, really? Rob, what was all the other ones? It was a ton. It was like all these.
A lot, the whole world, really.
There were so many. It was yeast, brewer's yeast, baker's yeast. We were on lockdown. Our family could eat almost nothing, and yeah, so.
Now it's different.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, we can eat everything, and we're trying to be smart and be healthy. But yeah, it's amazing how fear can really, fear and beliefs. I mean, there's a lot of commercials on TV that say, if you take this medication, warning, side effects, and they tell you all this stuff, but it's like a hypnosis. So they're kind of attaching this link, and they're making people fearful, like you could have an anaphylactic reaction. And I didn't even know what an anaphylactic reaction was. I didn't even know what an allergy was until I was in high school. And I saw a friend that had, his eyes were running. I was like, what's wrong? And his nose, and he's like, oh, I have allergies. I didn't even know what that was. Mm-hmm. You see, so it's like, being exposed to it and hearing the hypnosis of it is, it's key. But anyway, so we're really grateful because it was very enslaving for so many years to not be able to eat all this stuff, to be able to go to eat,
right.
Food again.
And
to
a lot
live.
of trauma around that as well.
There's a lot of trauma around it. Mm-hmm.
Is this the same case? Is this the same for seasonal allergies?
Yeah, of course.
And so it's just like an emotional trauma that happened when that plant
we can't
came
say
out?
trauma. There could be something.
Okay.
Something.
And
I've worked with a lot of people who've had what you would call seasonal affective disorder, and it's very similar. And the interesting thing said, whenever I moved to this state, which I hated the state, I didn't want to be there with my husband, and now I have allergies.
Okay.
Or better yet, I got married and I started having allergies. Okay. I got divorced, the allergies went. I mean, you know how many people I've had dealt with that? So again, it has a lot to do with emotions. Okay. Yeah, so it is bizarre, really it is. But again, it goes back to how the mind is trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you safe. There's a lot of bizarreness to this stuff, and once you understand that the mind has this ability to do this, to change this, and to heal this. I've worked with lots of people with these allergies, and here's the bizarre thing. I will work with issues, experiences, bad experiences, and we change those, the allergies disappear. They just completely disappear. And they didn't even realize that it was gone until, oh my God, I don't have snotty noses anymore. I can eat this, and it didn't even bother me. I even forgot that they had the allergy. So it is awareness. Now, the most important thing is what I started with yesterday, was it said it's linking. It's the unconscious linking, and logic will not understand that. Your logic doesn't make, common logic doesn't make sense. And when you understand the unconscious logic, the unconscious conditionings, it makes sense. And I think you're starting to see it now, aren't you? Can you start seeing that it's all unconscious linking? It is beyond conscious linking. It doesn't make sense to us logically because, logically you know that the passes over doesn't exist. You know that. So why are you still acting like it still exists? Because of the unconscious programming and how it operates. So with the allergies, I always say this, and you've got to be smart when you're dealing with your allergies.